Hi, everybody. Today we're going to be looking at research methods in psychology research. So what you're looking at here is a very simplified version of the scientific method. This is how it's described in most books. But of course, you've seen in the background readings that it's actually far more complicated than that. It's not quite so simple as do step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in that precise order. But this simplified version does still make a good way to think about the different steps in psychological and other scientific research. Since we have to start somewhere, we're going to start at the top. And so anytime we do research, we always have to stop and just think, what are we even trying to get out of this research? So sometimes when we do research, we just want to describe something. Maybe we just want to know at what age does the average child learn to walk? Or what percentage of AACC students are attending full-time? We just want to describe something. Sometimes we want to look for statistical relationships. Maybe we want to know if there is a relationship between people going to school full-time and their GPA, or going to school full-time and their satisfaction with the college as a whole. And then sometimes we want to look for cause and effect. Maybe we want to know if I make certain changes to my course, are students' grades going to go up? Or if the college adds a new policy, are students going to be more likely to actually graduate on time? Now, anytime we do research, regardless of its purpose, we're always going to be measuring one or more variables. And the variables are simply the concepts or the ideas that you are measuring. And any given variable will have multiple possible values. So for example, if my variable is age, then obviously my values or my levels might be the different ages. Something like hair color, we can't measure it with numbers the same way. It's not like black hair is worth more than brown hair, but we can still divide it up into different categories. So once we've got sort of our basic question that we think we want to address, we now have to look and figure out how can we turn this into more of a testable hypothesis. And remember that a hypothesis is a specific prediction. It can be based on common sense, it can be based on observations of behavior, it can be based on research that's happened before. And occasionally you'll have more just of a general question, especially if it's a really new topic. Like I've seen some research on social media where there's just not a lot to go on. It's not like social media has been around all that long. And so somebody might just pose some very general questions. But the key here is that a hypothesis has to be testable. There has to be a way to say, these results will make my hypothesis be supported, and some other pattern of results will mean that my hypothesis was wrong. And then, no matter what variable or variables we're using, we have to figure out how are we defining them for the purposes of our present study. Okay. Some variables are really simple to measure. You want to know how old people are? All you have to do is ask them, no problem. But if you're measuring something different, like if you want to measure health, there's a lot of different ways that we might define health. We might just ask people to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. We could give them a list of conditions and say, check off the ones you have. We might measure things like their weight or their cholesterol level. And each of these methods will have its pros and cons. But the key is we have to figure that out in advance, because how you measure something might affect the quality of the data that you're getting. So now, once we've defined everything, now we have to go collect our data. And we have a lot of different methods that are available to us, but those are going to be in the next video.